Most people treat weakness like a verdict, something to hide, something like they need to explain away, or even as an excuse. But in business, weakness isn't personal. I want you to understand that weakness is informational. And the data doesn't judge, it just directs you to where you need to go. And the areas where you struggle the most are often the areas trying to teach you the fastest. The problem isn't that you have weaknesses. The problem is when you refuse to study them, to understand them, and allow it to move you to another place. So today we're going to reframe the idea of weakness and how it is not a flaw, but is really a feedback that when used correctly becomes a strategic advantage. Let's talk about it.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Hey, everybody. I have a question. What weakness keeps showing up in your career or business despite your effort? So, I'm going to tell you something that kept showing up in my career, and it transitioned itself into my business, and it really made me consider what was the starting point of it all. So for me, the idea of showing up and I could turn things on and off whenever I wanted to, that was a weakness for me because for a while, because of the jobs I was in, I could have done that. It was easy to do. But at some point in time, you have to understand and realize that there are going to be some days when, especially when you don't feel like it, it's not going to be the easiest to turn it on. And we see that in sports where they might go in and say, hey, you know what, this team is not up to our caliber. And they think that they could turn it on whenever they want. And then unfortunately get upset by that particular team because they were not able to turn it on the right time, which would have been in the very beginning of the game. And so if this happens to you, I don't want you to think of it as a surprise, but it's actually a signal for where you are. See, if the same issue keeps happening, for some of you, it might be a missed deadline. For some of you, it could be miscommunication. And for others, it might be stalled growth. But it's no longer a coincidence. It's an idea, it's a signal that there's something missing. And see, high performers don't get offended by the signals. Again, what do? They analyze and investigate it. And the awareness is the first step towards correction. And when weakness is exposed, weakness can be reduced. See, when or what stays hidden, it can stay powerful. The moment you name a weakness, you take control of it. Let me put that back out there again. What stays hidden stays powerful. And the moment you name a weakness, you take control of it. And it's not about beating yourself up. It's not about ripping yourself apart, but it's about self-management. And mature professionals build systems, tools, and support around their weak areas instead of pretending they don't exist. So me thinking that I can turn it on and off, I had to understand and take a look at what especially when I was in customer service, that, hey, if I sit down, I know I could smile, especially if I had a bad day, a bad evening, a bad lunch, whatever, whatever it might have been. But I had to understand that before I do that, I have to smile. I have to speak up for myself. I have to look in the mirror, because those of you who work in customer service, maybe you can relate to me, where you have to have a mirror up on your desk somewhere so you can see yourself, because you're supposed to do things with a smile. And so what places or systems or tools do you need to have in place? And see, a lot of times systems will beat willpower, and trying harder rarely fixes a structural problem. If willpower worked, the issue will already be gone. Suitable growth comes from systems, processes to protect you from your blind spots and allow your strengths to lead. So if you have a system in place, if you have a process in place, and if you understand what the weaknesses are, again, one of my weaknesses also was follow-up. And so if you understand that that is a weakness of yours, whether it's intentional or not, what do you have in place for that? So I gave you an example. There are people that enjoy a good morning text. So if you understand that that is a weakness of yours, depending on what phone you have or depending on what cell phone someone else has, can you sit down and schedule out those text messages? Now, eventually they could feel like they're cold or whatever it is. I'm just using this as an example. But can you put that system in place that every Sunday afternoon, while you're sitting down, not doing anything, just schedule out your next 5 text messages, especially if it's just only good morning. Schedule it out. And then that way you know that you have not missed anything. You're not worried about it. You're not stressing over it, because, again, we need to de-stress. And understand that unaddressed weaknesses silently drain your energy. It drains your confidence and it drains your credibility. And these create frictions in teams. They can slow down momentum and limit leadership potential. And so when weaknesses are acknowledged and managed strategically, when weaknesses are acknowledged and managed strategically, progress accelerates and self-trust increases. Were you able to get that? That you really, really need to acknowledge what the weaknesses are. And when it's managed, you're going to grow faster. You're going to grow trust. You're going to see that progress needle move a lot cleaner, less friction. See, because growth isn't about pretending that you have it all together. It's about knowing exactly where you don't. And when you treat weakness as data, you stop taking it personally and start using it productively. So I would like for you to identify one recurring weakness and ask yourself this real deep question. What system and not effort needs to change? What system do you need to have in place? I would like to talk to you just a little bit later about this.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chisholm on social media to stay connected and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?